Welcome to the Monday, September 14th, 2020 Maplewood City Council meeting. Tonight, I wanted to start off our meeting by highlighting some things that are happening in our public safety department. What I'm going to tell you about are several things that go above and beyond the normal day-to-day expectations that we have for our police and fire and EMS personnel. Our Maplewood Fire Department is a finalist in one of the awards that's going to be handed out by the St. Paul Area Chamber of Commerce. This is at their annual Leaders in Local Government Award. And the Maplewood Fire Department was nominated based on the work that they did in the whole statewide mask mandate that was ordered by Governor Walz back on August 4th. Governor Walz asked the Chambers of Commerce to be the vehicles for delivering more than 4 million masks around our state. And the very first to volunteer to distribute masks was the Maplewood Fire Department. Chief Lucan mobilized our fire team and picked up 12 pallets of masks and delivered them to 4 locations in Ramsey County, helping out other partners in Ramsey County. And according to the nomination, the St. Paul Area Chamber noted that the Maplewood team was coordinated, generous with their time, amazingly efficient, and the reason we were the first county in the state to complete distributing masks. And so I want to formally acknowledge our fire department for their efforts going above and beyond and congratulate them. Mm-hmm. I also want to spotlight our police department because our police department was instrumental in putting together a backpack drive. Now, there were others involved, city staff were involved. There was a partnership with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, YMCA, and the Maplewood Mall. But the police, I think, were the ones that really instituted this, and they successfully collected $2,867 in donations to fill over 100 backpacks for Maplewood area students. As I said, they partnered with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, the YMCA, and our Maplewood Mall donated $500 in gift cards and extra backpacks. And Chief Nadeau, I believe you're on the call. I know that the council really appreciates the efforts of our public safety department during these challenging times. And we just want to formally acknowledge the hard work that they are doing for our community that really goes above and beyond just normal day-to-day expectations. I think it makes Maplewood a much better place to live, and we certainly appreciate all of their efforts. So thank you very much, Public Safety Department. We really appreciate you. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, let us start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk Sint, would you please do the roll call for us?
Councilmember Juniman.
Here.
Councilmember Knudsen.
Here.
Councilmember Neblett.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Mayor Abrams.
Here. Thank you very much. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, our order for council members is going to be Councilmember Knudsen, Councilmember Neblett, Councilmember Juniman, followed by Councilmember Smith. Moving on our agenda, I know that we're going to pull G11 from the agenda. That's the tax increment financing and business subsidy agreement for Maple Ridge Center based on the actions that our EDA just took. But other than that change, do I have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
So moved.
Moved by, I heard Neblett first.
Well, that's all right. I'll change it to a second.
Okay, moved by Neblett, seconded by Juniman. The motion to approve the agenda as amended. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to highlight number 4.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, then let's go to the vote. Councilmember Knutson,
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett,
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you. Moving on to the approval of the minutes. First, we have the
We need to
August,
highlight, excuse me, Mayor.
pardon me? Councilmember Juniman.
Never mind. I got it straightened out. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the approval of the minutes. This is for the August 24th, 2020 City Council Workshop minutes.
I move approval.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Knutson, the August 24th, 2020 City Council Workshop minutes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, then let's take a vote. Councilmember Knutson,
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett,
Abstain.
Councilmember Juniman,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Motion passes. Moving on to the August 24th, 2020 City Council meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Knutson. Motion to approve the August 24th, 2020 City Council meeting minutes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Councilmember Knutson,
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett,
Abstain.
Councilmember Juniman,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Moving on to appointments and presentations. We have our administrative presentations, the council calendar update, City Manager Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor Abrams, members of the City Council. The upcoming agenda items for our next council meetings are as such. On September 28th, at our workshop, we are planning to have commission interviews with the need to continue the EDA meeting, to have an EDA meeting now. That could happen under the regular meeting. I'm going to wait and see what we have on the agenda, but we will do commission. We do need to do commission interviews. We have several opening on our boards and several applicants, so we'll need to get that on there. On October 12th, we will be having the assessment hearing for 3 street improvement projects, and ordering the hearing is on your consent agenda here in just a moment. So those are the big things coming up. I don't have any other council comments or work that they'd like us to work on that I'm aware of. If I've missed something, please speak up.
Okay. Council members, is there anything, any council comments? Okay, hearing none. We didn't have any
Mayor,
Councilman
that's where
Juniman?
sorry, that's where I fell apart. I wanted to put a council presentation on the agenda, and I was in the wrong spot. Sorry. So
Okay.
I have one.
Okay. Council presentations, what is your point?
It's fall cleanup, pandemic style. We are having 2 ways people can still do some fall cleanup around their homes, basements, garages, and so on. For the month of October, running from the 5th to the 30th, our trash hauler, Road Public Services, will be doing a discount on bulky items. And so you can either call the Public Services or go on the city website to see exactly what's covered and what the fees are. And then secondly, one of our most popular items at City Cleanup has always been the shredding. And we are having a shredding event on Saturday, October 10th from 9 a.m. to 12 noon at our Public Works Building, 1902 County Road B. And there's a limit of 6 boxes weighing no more than 30 pounds each. So you can't clean out your lifetime of files, but you can get started anyway. And again, you can go on the website for cleanups and again, get the reminder and the details on that. So we started having a cleanup. Thank you, Mayor.
COVID style. Thank you very much.
COVID style.
Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. We had a highlight for number 4, resolution to accept donation from Country Financial. City Manager Coleman, do you want to take that one?
Yes, Mayor, I can take that. The report was written by Chief Mondor.
Oh, okay. I see Chief Mondor. Then Chief Mondor, let's give you an opportunity to weigh in. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager Coleman, Mayor Abrams, and Council. The fire and public safety departments were approached by an agent with Country Financial as they were giving $1,500 donations to first responder agencies as part of the company's operating Helping Heroes program. And in discussions with Chief Nadeau and the public safety department's continued commitment to try to build relationships in the community and help out those, especially with children returning to school, making sure that they get the stuff that they need to be successful. The timing fell nicely with the backpack giveaway that was highlighted earlier. And we had a discussion that we thought that it would be most appropriate to continue to try to build those relationships in the community in the way of this donation and send those funds to that initiative.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. We always like to highlight when people help us out at the city.
Absolutely. It's very generous of them. Council members, do I have a motion for
With that, I will move consent agenda items 1 through 10.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Neblett. Consent agenda items 1 through 10. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Councilmember Knutson.
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett.
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman.
Oh, aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. The motion passes for our consent agenda. We have no public hearings tonight. Moving on to unfinished business. We have Hy-Vee at 2501 White Bear Avenue. Appeal of the CDRB decision. Mr. Thompson, do you want to take this one?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Oh, it is. Give me one moment here.
I need a seatbelt.
Yeah, it was moving on its own. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is an appeal of a decision of the design review for the Hy-Vee project. Hy-Vee has appealed that decision and is bringing it to the council for consideration of the design review application for the new grocery store and gas station. So again, the project that's familiar with the council, it's at Maple Ridge Center, a remodeling of the former Rainbow Food site into the new Hy-Vee grocery store, and then construction of the new freestanding convenience store and gas station. This design review application was reviewed by the CDRB last month. They did approve the design application for the new grocery store, but they added a couple of conditions which require modifications to the design that Hy-Vee had concerns with those conditions, and so they have appealed that decision and have come forward to the council to hear that appeal. But in response to the conditions, have actually made some changes to the exterior design to address some of the concerns that the CDRB had, but modify the specific conditions that the CDRB added. So just walk through some of the proposed design elements for the project so the council is aware of them. Again, this is really focused, the appeal is focused on the grocery store itself. It's an existing building, so they're not proposing any expansions to the building itself, but there would be a couple canopies added both on the north side of the building and on the southeast corner of the building, and really to facilitate some of the higher used drop-off and pickup areas today. So there'd be a dedicated area for curbside pickup, and then also a dedicated area on the southeast corner for a pharmacy drive-through. These are the revised building elevations that Hy-Vee has submitted in response to the CDRB's review and this appeal. I think they're making significant improvements and significant updates to the exterior of this building. Again, there's no demolition of the building itself. This is not a new building. It's really a rehabilitation or redevelopment of that existing building. Some of the exterior updates include adding a significant amount of new materials on the building. So the building today is largely kind of a concrete block building. But you can see the front of the building would have a substantial remodel. There'd be composite wood added, a significant amount of new glass added to the front of the building, as well as some new metal banding and some metal canopies on the corners, as well as where those those pickup windows are located. And then the entire building would be painted. Any of the existing materials that are retained would be painted a single kind of new gray color to match the branding and color scheme of the Hy-Vee store. The CDRB did, so the council is aware of this, the CDRB did recommend that on the actual gas station that they incorporate some additional brick, and Hy-Vee is agreeable to that, to add that additional brick as requested, and will also be required to add some additional landscaping on the east side given the close proximity of that gas station to White Bear Avenue. I should also note that on the aside from the improvements on the front I noted, on the side elevation, that was the other elevation the CDRB spent a considerable amount of time on because it's visible from Jarvis. They've incorporated again some of that metal canopy material, but also added some clear story windows, so new glass that would be added on that south side to break up the facade and provide some interest along that public right-of-way side. So again, Hy-Vee is requesting that the City Council approve the grocery store design as it's been kind of resubmitted and approve the appeal of that CDRB decision. And this is codified in the resolution that's included in your packet. So with that, Mayor, I'm happy to answer any questions. I know we also do have a representative of Hy-Vee available this evening if the council has any questions of them on the proposed design.
Okay, great. Does Hy-Vee want to say anything? I'd like to offer them an opportunity if they'd like to say something. I don't know who's the representative is.
Mayor and Council, we have two representatives that have called in. It looks like one of them just unmuted herself.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Tanya. Hello.
Hi, Tanya. Welcome to the council meeting.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. I mean, I have to say that was a fabulous presentation. So I don't know that we need to go over anything, further, but no, he did a wonderful job sort of explaining our stance. And really, we just wanted to make sure that there were no questions from your end of the revisions to our proposal, or if you wanted us to answer any further questions about why we were submitting some of these proposed revisions.
Okay. Tanya, can we get your last name just for the record? Our city clerk will really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yep. My name is Tanya Householder, just like it sounds.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to do a round robin then with our council members and ask for any questions. Councilmember Knudsen.
I don't have any questions. I'm just going to make some comments. I'm a liaison to the Design Review Board, and they do a thorough job. And I think, as Mr. Thompson suggested, they go and look at corners and neighborhood access. What do the neighbors see? So they really work hard at making these buildings approachable, usable, and architecturally sound. The meeting that they had when we went through the Hy-Vee proposal was pretty extensive. And what I'm going to say, what Hy-Vee did in response really is an upgrade. When they say it appeal, I think what they did was went above and beyond what I heard the expectations were. So I clearly am going to vote yes on this. And I think we can continue to support our Design Review Board in also doing their job. But I think this is a great plan. It looks good, it functions well, and it incorporates many of the suggestions that the CRB made. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Neblett.
No question, just a comment. I think the renderings that were shown this evening, it does look beautiful. It doesn't look anything like the old rainbow that it used to be. And it's really exciting to see. And it looks like it's this partnership with the CDRB and Hy-Vee have come up with a really beautiful looking building. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Juniman.
Likewise, once again, our CDRB comes through and they make sure we have a wonderful looking community. And I think it's wonderful that Hy-Vee reacted to their, I guess I would say suggestions other than requirements, and came through with it. It does look lovely. I agree with Sylvia. Yay, hooray, I can't wait. And it's going to be a lovely corner for the first time in, it seems like a lifetime. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so just to put a fine point on this, because it is the wording is a little strange here. I mean, what we're seeing here is that Hy-Vee has met or exceeded all the recommendations the CDRB laid out. We're not overturning any decisions there. Is that something we could just confirm? Okay.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. I think, Mr. Thompson, I think we need to get a little bit more specific because as I recall it, the appeal really was over, I want to say, and maybe this is too simplistic, but painted stripes at the bottom of the building. Is that really the sole issue that Hy-Vee is appealing, Mr. Thompson?
Mayor and Council, that is correct. So the specific condition that the CDRB had added was painting the base of the building. They were trying to provide some definition along the south and east sides of the building. And so they had recommended it be painted a different color than the single gray. And in response to that, Hy-Vee has said, in lieu of doing that different color, we're going to add some additional elements to the building and additional new materials in wood and steel and new windows to break up the facade to meet the same intent, but to do it in a different way. So it maintains the same direction that the CDRB had given the applicant to address the design of those sides of the building, just in an alternative method.
Got it. So then really what the motion would be concerning the plans that were submitted to the city on September 8th. Is that correct?
Mayor, that's correct.
Okay. I will agree with my fellow council members that this is a gorgeous store. I really like the design. I think that it will be a great addition to White Bear Avenue. I think that, it doesn't look anything like the way it looks today, and I am absolutely excited about it. So with that, council members, I'm going to make the motion to approve the plans as submitted to the city on September 8th.
Second.
Moved by Abrams, seconded by Smith. The motion to
That was
approve.
Knudsen.
That was Knudsen.
No, that was Knudsen.
Oh, was that Knudsen? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Seconded by Knudsen, the motion to approve the plans as submitted by Hy-Vee to the city on September 8th. Is there any further discussion? Hearing
Mayor?
none, then let's take a vote. Is that Councilmember Neblett?
No, it was me. I'm
Knudsen.
sorry.
Oh,
Juniman.
Councilmember Juniman.
I'm sorry. I just want to say that, this is once again, when you have a group like the Community Design Review Board who cares about the community, and then you have a classy developer / business coming to town, what good things can happen.
Absolutely. Good, very good point. Okay, the vote, Councilmember Knudsen,
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett,
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
and I am an aye as well. Thank you very much, and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you so much
Moving-
for taking time to review that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Wonderful. We'll probably get off the call unless you want us to hang on for anything else.
No, you're free.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great
Thank
evening.
you very much. We appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Okay, moving on to new business. We have the amendment to the Maplewood Community Center operating agreement. Ms. Coleman, this is yours, I believe.
Yes.
Were you
thank
going to do this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Abrams, members of the City Council. This is a agreement with the YMCA of Greater Twin Cities. As you know, we currently have an agreement with them to operate the Maplewood Community Center. However, the current situation relating to the pandemic has changed the nature of our business operations. The Maplewood Area EDA is providing a business grant to the YMCA, allowing for sustainable operations during this difficult time. The council will consider the first amendment to the Maplewood Community Center operating agreement, which will provide for mutually beneficial changes as follows. So really, the first thing is that the city extends its right to utilize the banquet center for up to 20 hours per week through December 21st of 2021. Otherwise, the banquet center usage would have ended at the end of this year. Secondly, the YMCA will be allowed to repurpose its annual contribution of approximately $200,000 for operating expenses for the remainder of this year and into next year. The city and the YMCA agree to jointly review and reprioritize capital expenditure plans, given the changes that have occurred with our economy. The period for the termination of the existing contract would be revised to 6 months rather than 1 year. The YMCA would not be allowed to terminate before December 31st of 2021. Because of the current economy, it would be very difficult for the Y to make a termination decision 1 year prior to December 31st of 2021. So those are really the 4 deal points of this agreement. I'm happy to address any questions that you might have. I would also indicate that Shane Hofer with the YMCA is also on the call if you'd like to hear from him as well.
Thank you, City Manager Coleman. Shane, I think it would be really helpful for you to maybe explain a little bit about reopening the Y and any comments that you'd like to make for the council.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can you just confirm you can hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, wonderful. Let me begin actually just simply by sharing our profound gratitude for the generous partnership that we enjoy with the city of Maplewood. The pandemic has posed an almost existential challenge to the YMCA. As you can recall, not to do a history lesson here, but we've been through a lot, starting back in the middle of March, and the YMCA at its core, couldn't operate, and the continuing impact of COVID-19 on what it means to be an organization that's trying to provide health and wellness programming is that it's hard. It's extremely challenging to do well. Throughout this entire pandemic, nonetheless, we've redoubled our efforts around providing support to the community. I think from the front doors of the Maplewood YMCA Community Center, we've distributed almost 40,000 meals this summer. We've provided wellness calls to some 2,000 seniors in the city of Maplewood, and actually on a monthly basis. In the nearby neighborhood centers, which are our YMCA outreach programs that are housed inside affordable housing developments, we've been providing career services, support for young people and teens, mobile food shelves, and more. But without support from organizations like the City of Maplewood in partnership, it becomes untenable to be able to sustain what operation and programming we've been able to do at the Maplewood YMCA so successfully these past number of years. So I don't know if that's a helpful preface. Madam Mayor, is there anything else that you'd like me to address there in those comments?
I think that was very helpful to hear it in such a condensed way. We've been keeping up with all of the things that you have been helping out with in our community. I know I have certainly been over at the community center, and I have witnessed the number of people that you are helping with food distribution. And I've certainly seen the kids over at the community center that you are caring for. So thank you very much for being such an important partner to the city and to all of our residents. It has helped so many people, and it's really been an inspiration for our community. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is a privilege and our honor.
Okay, so council members, does anyone have any questions? Let's do our little round robin. Councilmember Knutson, any questions for City Manager Coleman or for Shane? Sorry.
I was, involved in this. I support this fully. One question I have is, are we aware, or, we've been using this for capital improvements. Now, are we aware of any pending problems or anything that we might discover in the next year? Not Ms. Coleman or Mr.
Sorry,
Hopper?
are you asking if we have any capital improvement needs at the community center?
Yeah, anything that we're aware of that might come due or in this next year?
Yeah, so we have actually accommodated for some requirements that were needed this year in the $200,000 that we contributed for 2020. So those needs have been met for this year, which included, I believe, some things with the pool, an air handling unit or something like that. The beginning of next year, we will be meeting with the Y representatives, Mr. Hofer and Mr. Weibel, to make sure that we all understand the capital improvement plan, because as you can see in the agreement, we've agreed to forego capital improvements in order to keep the center staffed and open. But at this point in time, we believe we've addressed the capital needs for this year and next year.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Neblett.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to echo Mr. Hofer, what the mayor said. Thank you and your staff for all that you have done for this community and are doing for this community in this time. I think you've been a fantastic community partner. And just the idea, the mere fact that people know that they can come to the community center and get a meal is just, thank you. Just thank you.
Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you, Mayor. I just think, once again, this is, if nothing else in this unbelievable time we're experiencing, partnerships that were meant to be and are well formed produce some pretty good results even in the most trying of times. And this has really proven more so than just under the general operations of the community center / Y. This proves that it's a community center, and the Y are actually the ones that are acting it out right now, are portraying it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith.
Sorry, got on the wrong screen there. Yeah, agree. Wonderful to have these partnerships, and glad that we are able to sort of continue to evolve as the world evolves around us. So certainly in support.
Thank you, council members. Hearing no other comments or questions, is there a motion?
I move to approve the First Amendment to the Maplewood Community Center operating agreement with the YMCA of the Greater Twin Cities dated September 14, 2020.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Neblett. The motion to approve the First Amendment to Maplewood Community Center operating agreement with the Y of the Greater Twin Cities dated September 14th, 2020. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then let's take a vote. Councilmember Knutson.
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett.
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Smith.
Aye, sorry.
And I vote aye as well. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to our next agenda item, the North Fire Station construction project. Chief Mondor, this is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Abrams, members of the council. What you have in front of you is a request to approve two items. First is the request for proposal results for construction management services for the North Fire Station. And the second is the construction management services contract agreement with Kraus Anderson. In May of 19, staff released a request for proposals for construction management firms to provide those services. Staff reviewed proposals, scored, ranked, and shortlisted 3 firms of those that had responded. Staff, including the Chief Nadeau, Chief Lucan, myself, Ms. Paulseth, Mr. Thompson, and Mr. Love, conducted interviews with the 3 finalists and reviewed them based on responsiveness to the written proposal, capability, services provided, safety, specialized experience, community inclusiveness, presentation, interview, and cost. The results of the review is included in the documents for your consideration tonight, and we're requesting approval of the results and also approval of the construction management contract, which was reviewed and approved by Kennedy and Graven.
Thank you, Chief. Council members, are there any questions? Councilmember Knutson.
No, thank you.
Councilmember Neblett.
Yes, I've got a couple.
Okay.
So, you guys almost, it is rare not to go with the lowest bidder. And I know they weren't they were in the middle. But what about them made you think that they were the best value to the city, in your words, for this project? What exactly, why them, I guess?
Sure. We labored over this decision because we understand that the financial constraints that the city continues to experience and may experience in the future. And we really felt that based on the results of the process, the submittal documents were more responsive to our RFP release. The presentation and interview were well suited to the project and demonstrated experience on some similar projects. And we really felt that we were going, although the cost was, it's in the middle and it's $20,000 more, we felt like the project success had better opportunity with Kraus Anderson over the competitors.
Okay. So I know that Kraus Anderson's been around for a very long time and they have a reputation as doing very good work. And just one more question, Chief Mondor. When you all looked at all of these things, like you said, the written proposal, capability, services provided, etc., and you also included community inclusiveness, what were you looking for in terms of community inclusiveness from Kraus Anderson?
Yes, so in relation to our proposals, as part of the More Teams initiatives, we've really evaluated how we select people that we're going to work with. And part of that is asking the question, what are you doing to be more inclusive in your workplace and as it relates to the delivery of this project? So Kraus Anderson has focused on diversity, equity, inclusion. They have a coordinator that focuses on being more representative in the delivery of their projects in the community. And they were able to speak to what we're trying to accomplish within the city, within the public safety department, as it relates to this project.
All right, cool. Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Good questions. Councilmember Juniman.
And Mayor Abrams, if I may.
No questions, sir.
Okay. Chief Mondor, did you have something else?
Oh, I just quick pulled up the scoring rubric just for Councilmember Neblett's question. Specifically, we asked, for them to address that the firm and assigned staff demonstrate several examples of the firm's representation, employment, or utilization of employees, subcontractors, or other service providers that will be utilized on this project that come from traditionally underrepresented communities.
Cool.
Great.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You know, I'd like to comment that that's just another example of how the strategic priorities that were adopted by our city council, that we are actually implementing those, that really sets the course for how we make decisions. So thank you very much for that, Chief Mondor. And that was a great question, Councilmember Neblett.
Mayor, this is Councilman Knutson. I just wanted to comment too that when we did St. John's Hospital, we used the same kind of process and ended up with a middle contract with the construction manager, and it really weighed heavily on their choice of subcontractors, just as Mr. Mondor had expressed. So this is a very good process.
Thank you for that. Councilmember Juniman, you said that you didn't have anything else?
No,
is that
thank
correct?
you.
Okay, and Councilmember Smith.
No, thank you. Excited to get this project rolling, and I think this is such an important investment that sometimes, you know, the lowest bid doesn't make the most sense. And sorry about my dogs, but a lot of investment on the front end sometimes can save us money in the long run. You know, good planning and good strategy on the front end. So I'm supportive.
Good point. Okay, council members, we have two motions in front of us. Is there, I'll make the first one, the motion to approve the request for proposal results of the North Fire Station construction project.
Second.
Moved by Abrams, seconded by Knutson, the motion to approve the request for proposal results of the North Fire Station construction project. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then let's go to a vote. Councilmember Knutson.
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett.
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Council members, is there another motion?
I move to approve the construction management services contract agreement with Kraus Anderson Construction Company for the North Fire Station replacement project.
Second.
Moved by Neblett, seconded by Juniman. I heard Councilmember Juniman first. Sorry about that. The motion to approve the construction management services contract agreement with Kraus Anderson for the North Fire Station replacement project. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, let's go to the vote. Councilmember Knutson.
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett.
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you for that. Both of those passed. Moving on to the review of charitable gambling policies. It's going to be J3. Let's see. City Manager Coleman, are you going to do this one?
Yes, Mayor Abrams, I am. Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Each year, the Maplewood City Council has an opportunity to distribute or decide how charitable gambling funds are distributed. In the past several years, budgeted the amounts have been about $30,000 for the last 4 or 5 years. This year, because of COVID, this has really affected the amount of funds that have been generated through lawful gambling. And the award this year is only $15,000. So staff is asking the City Council to review the current charitable gambling policy and determine if there's a more equitable or better way to distribute these limited funds this year. First of all, in the past years, the City of Maplewood has publicized this application process for disbursement of funds through letters to past recipients and by putting articles in Maplewood Living and on our website. The City Council has then reviewed the application and determined how much money to give each organization. Over the past 5 years, between 18 and 23 organizations annually have been awarded charitable gambling funds. The amount of the awards has varied, with the smallest amount being $200 and the greatest amount just being over $4,000. Since there's considerable less money this year, it is recommended that the City Council consider the best way to distribute these limited funds. The city is not required to post for applications, the city council could simply determine what organization they want the funds to go to. And a few weeks ago, I sent you some information in the FYI, which Lois Knutson had gathered from other communities. And most of the other communities that had actually had more money than we did, many of them limited the organizations they gave to 3 to 5 organizations. In your packet, there is our the Minnesota Gambling Control Board guide for cities on how to spend the money. And there's also the city's current charitable gambling policies, which were last revived in 2012, excuse me. These policies could be modified at City Council at any time. So I'm happy to address any questions you may have, but we are looking for direction on how to let folks know how the funds will be distributed this year. We have had some calls of interest, and so I think it would be good if we could come up with a solution on how to address this issue, because you know we always have more requests than we have money, but this year it's even more challenging. So with that, Mayor, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, City Manager Coleman. I think when we brought this up at our last council meeting, I think I kind of made my thoughts clear on where I was with this, that I participated in making these decisions about our charitable gambling money back to 2014. And, you know, we've certainly helped out a number of school groups and scouting groups and senior groups. And basically, you know, we have supported just a variety of programs. I remember one of the programs, it was one of our classes in one of our schools that wanted to build a canoe and then actually market it and sell it. And it was really quite an interesting project, and we helped fund that. We also did the robotics team, and we've helped out different choirs, and we've helped out the Angel Fund, and I think we've done a lot of good. Now, the difference that I see this year is that a lot of these programs are not happening, or they are, you know, definitely diminished because of the pandemic and restrictions on gathering and such. And if you recall at our last council meeting, I threw out the idea that, you know, for me personally, it's heartbreaking to see the people line up at our community center to get food. And what I would like to suggest is that we consider giving this $15,000 to those who are food challenged by partnering with the Y and helping pay for that program, because that is such an immediate need. You know, our unemployment rate is still pretty high. It's just under 10%. And, you know, I just think that if we can help people with meals, that just goes a long way. And so that's kind of my thinking on it. That's what I would like to see us do, rather than dilute this money, you know, by giving $200 here or there. I really would like to see the impact of helping out with food distribution through the Y. So with that, let's hear from our council members. Councilmember Knutson.
I agree with you, Mayor. I think right now, many people are looking at basic needs. Some of the things that, you know, like building a canoe and all that stuff are kind of aspirational needs. But right now, I think the basic needs, and I support your suggestion. I think it's expedient, and I think it really hits at the heart of what we all need to do as a community.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Neblett.
Here. I agree wholeheartedly. I think that would be a great idea.
Okay. Councilmember Juniman.
I agree. The only other idea I had also was possibly our school districts, because they are also distributing food. So that's one more idea. But it should all, I think we should either go, you know, like at the most 2 sources and do the greatest good with it. And there's no need to, I don't think, advertise for letters of application. I don't think so. I think it's pretty obvious that there are things that need to be done.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Smith.
I agree with Councilmember Knutson of, we're in a place of basic needs right now. I also feel like sometimes when we do this, when we take a certain amount of money and break it up into lots of little pieces and try to help a lot of people a little bit, I'm not sure it has the same kind of impact when we can focus funds into smaller number of organizations. That said, though, I think we should discuss as a council, is this a precedent or is this something we do this year because it's a unique situation? And that, what is the expectation going forward from here?
Great question. Just for clarification, my thought was it's only for this year that, hopefully there will be a vaccine, things will be different, but I'm only talking about the money for this year for 2020 and leave that open to the council to decide in 2021. So that's really what I'm focused on, is immediate needs for food right now in our community.
And so that would make me a lot more comfortable with this. And as long as that's in the minutes for posterity, that, we understand that this is a unique situation this year and that in the future councils can decide how to go about it.
Thank you for pointing that out. I really appreciate that. City Manager Coleman, does that give you enough clarification?
Mayor Abrams, the only thing that I would ask for some clarity on is whether you wish to give all $15,000 to the Y, or if you'd like to do half to the Y and half to a school district.
Thank you. My thought is give it all to the Y. Councilmember Knutson.
Agree.
Okay, Councilmember Juniman. I'm sorry, Neblett. Sorry.
I agree.
Neblett.
I say give it all to the Y.
Okay, Councilmember Juniman.
I guess so. I don't know what, I still don't know what the need is for the two school districts, but I do know that Edgerton School, they have a lot of people that are in dire shape. That's why I brought it up.
Okay, thank you. And Councilmember Smith.
I agree. However, let's make sure it's clear that it's earmarked for food security purposes, not just general funds.
Yep.
Understood. Yep, understood. Thank you very much for that. That's clear direction.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Moving on to review of the city council meeting format. This is Mr. Sable, I believe.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Can you hear me appropriately?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
At the last, good evening, Mayor and council members. Mike Sable, Assistant City Manager and HR Director. At the last city council meeting, there was a request for staff to review how other cities are handling their meetings and city council formats in response to the pandemic and the COVID-19 issues that we're facing. And so city staff did some research of peer communities in and around the metropolitan area to determine how they are meeting, how they're handling public comments, what are some of the challenges that they're facing, what are some of the best practices. And Lois Thompson and I and a few others did some robust research. And so what we're going to do today is present our findings of what we have seen work in other communities, talk about the city council can determine sort of its preference, and then we can talk about what next steps would be for an implementation process. I say all of this with one important caveat, and that is that we are using the council chambers as an early voting, absentee voting center because it's the most spacious room we have for to handle the number of voters who vote. And so that room will open up this Friday as absentee voting starts in earnest this Friday. And so I say that to say that there are some complications to using the chambers if we do a tear down and setup for the meetings. I don't want that to persuade you in one way or the other. I just want to indicate that it's going to be a logistical challenge at times. So I throw that out there. But what we have seen around the region is really there's been three sort of formats that we've identified for local governments around. They are virtual, 100% virtual meetings. They are 100% in person, or they are some sort of hybrid meeting. And virtual meetings are held electronically via video or telephone, and public hearing and comments are also done. That's how the Maplewood City Council has handled its meetings, have been all virtual. There are a number of communities that are doing that, more prominently Hennepin and Ramsey County, Bloomington, Brooklyn Center, Edina, Shoreview, St. Louis Park, White Bear Lake, among others. The second piece is the largest contingent. Those are in-person meetings. Meetings are held in person. Public hearings and public comments are also done in person. This is the bulk of the cities in the region. I don't know that they make up the bulk of the population, but certainly the largest number. I think one of the considerations and challenges is that if the number of participants exceeds the capacity of the room, they are having people wait either in a queue in a lobby area outside, or the city staff just sort of lets them in one at a time. So if someone speaks, they're escorted out, a new person is escorted in. Logistically not a huge challenge, but it does create some flow considerations to the meeting. And then the last group is really a hybrid where they have some participants in person and some participating electronically or remotely. Based on our research, all of these meeting styles function properly. They all adhere to the requirements set forth in state statute for open meeting. They are all able to get public input, whether it's through email or phone call or Zoom call or in person. We did also look at some of the technology considerations. Talking to our IT staff, we do think that there's one small piece of equipment and some wiring that we would like to do to make sure that there's appropriate equipment that we can convert multiple video feeds. If you did go to a hybrid model, it would improve the quality for the viewing public at home. That piece of equipment and the cabling and the labor to go into that is estimated at about $4,000. There's money in our 2020 budget to pay for that upgrade. The other thing that we talked about was the physical space considerations in the council chambers. We believe that the maximum capacity in the council chambers is safely held at 30. However, based on the configuration of where the dais is, and if you had the center podium, if you remember what the chambers looked like, there was the podium where the staff would speak. If that stayed in place, we think we'd estimate that about 15 members of the public could attend the in-person meeting, and that would safely allow for appropriate social distancing. We've talked through options for how we would handle overflow if necessary, including setting up spaces in the DMV or the information desk area. In terms of a recommendation from city staff, we do believe that a hybrid model does offer the most flexibility. The city manager and I even joked today that in-person meetings can often be easier and more dynamic, and the interchange and interplay of speakers is easier when you're together. And so there are some practical considerations for why that's important. The other piece that that we did some research on, and I really want to thank Ron Beatty and his team at Kennedy and Graven, was how do we change? And there is should the council so choose, we have some language that we could use to replace. I think if you'll remember, March 16th, the city council affirmed the mayor's declaration of an emergency. And then that was followed up with a statement regarding conducting meetings by telephone or electronic means. And what we would suggest as a step is that if the council decided to change its meeting format, that you could replace the determination regarding conducting meetings by telephone or electronic means with whatever new protocols you laid forward. So it would essentially be a replacement. And I think procedurally it's a simple maneuver, but I'll let the discussion dictate that next step. And with that, Mayor and Council, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you very much for that report. And thank you, staff, for contacting all of those different cities and counties. It looks like, we've got a record here of almost, around 60 cities and counties, and kind of what they're doing out there to be able to continue business. I was the one that really, I think, kind of started this, because I'd like to move forward and take that step to go to a hybrid meeting. I certainly want to be respectful. I know that I have family members that, with health concerns, and some staff or council members might share in that as well. And so I think the hybrid, to me, gives people a respectful option to either come back to the council chambers using social distancing and masks and all of that, and while still recognizing that people have that option if they do want to call in and attend the meeting virtually. It would be the same for our commissions, that they would similarly have that ability to either meet at City Hall or conduct, they could participate and continue to get things done virtually if that was their personal preference. It seems to be the most respectful way. I'm anxious to get back to some of that dynamic discussion that I think only happens when you are in person. So that's kind of my thinking about it. And just in terms of, I really appreciate the research and the depth of the staff report. But in looking at this, if, for this additional cost that is CARES Act eligible, it's a CARES Act eligible expense, that it would take maybe 2 to 4 weeks to get the technology up and running and tested in order to do that. So that basically, this is our first meeting in September. That kind of gets us to pretty close to the end of October, maybe. And then it probably would not be such a disruption to tear down and set up and sanitize the council chambers from their use as, a voting location, and then having our council meeting. And we only have 2 council meetings. I understand that commissions and such, 2 would be involved, but if this took 2 to 4 weeks, that kind of moves that timeline out there. So thank you, staff, for this. And those are my thoughts about it. I would like to be able to take that next step and go to a hybrid kind of a meeting. So with that, Councilmember Knudsen, what are your thoughts?
I like the hybrid. Someone had commented in an email that we were hiding. And I just want to comment that we're being respectful. We're not hiding. And we're doing a very good job of modeling, the kind of appropriate behavior for COVID. That being said, I'm perfectly interested in the hybrid model. I think I'll probably return to chambers. I want to respect the voting, don't want to disrupt that. So I think your timeline makes sense. And I'm near Brainerd, Minnesota right now. So the hybrid is working out pretty well.
Okay. Councilmember Neblett, what are your thoughts?
Thank you, Mayor. I am for the hybrid at this point. Thank you I think the research that staff did was really thorough, and I really appreciated it. I probably will not be in chambers right off the bat, but I think the hybrid is probably our best bet for now. I hope it is right now. And hopefully I'll get there where I feel like, yes, I can be there in person. And you're right, Mayor. It does make a difference when you are in the room looking in someone's eyes and talking to them. It's completely different. But it's just, I'm still anxious. I got to be honest. I'm just anxious about this stuff still. And I'll get there, I'm sure, but I'm just not there yet. So hybrid for me, please.
Understandable. Councilmember Juniman.
Yes, hybrid from my standpoint also. And the part that's a little ungainly to me is the, what I call crowd control factor. You know, it's going to involve some cooperation on the part of the public then if it's a significant number of people to be, you know, properly spaced in the lobby and outside and all that type of thing. I think people have to be respectful of everyone else that also thinks they want to come. Part of my hesitation has to do with look what's happening to the colleges that went all in, and a lot of them are going all out. So I don't think we should rush to cancel what we've done all this time to be safe. So if we do anything in person, I think the hybrid model is the most aggressive we need to be at this point. Yes, it's a whole different dynamic staying home than it is being in the room. Not all bad, however, but it is a different dynamic. I think probably nobody knows that better than me, 19 years of this. But I am, like Sylvia, I will probably choose to be hybrid for the moment at least. And to me, it only makes sense not to start this till after the election, because then you're infringing on something that's very important to people, that they can come and vote absentee in person and be safe. So we don't want to infringe on that. Thank you.
Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Smith.
Sorry, I didn't realize it was still muted. I've been working at home now for 7 months and having almost all of my meetings virtually like this. I guess I might not be the best barometer, because it's become my new normal all day long. So I of course prefer being with you guys when we can, but I'm also very comfortable being online. So I'm sort of ambivalent on which way we go. For me, it's I think there's good arguments on both sides. So I will probably go with the flow on this one.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. You'll go with what?
I said I'll go with the flow on this one.
Okay. All right. City Manager Coleman, what other kinds of discussion would you like? What other kind of direction?
Thank you, Mayor Abrams. The one comment that I would add is that in addition to the council chambers being used for the election and requiring tear down and disinfecting after the council meetings for voting, there would be several commissions that would be following your lead. So they would have the option too of doing hybrids or virtual. And so with that, I would strongly encourage council to consider not starting this until our November 9th meeting, just for practical purposes.
You know, I'm fine with that, starting November 9th. I understand that, just, to save, we want to make sure that we provide a safe environment, and having to tear down for each one of the meetings, I'm fine with that. Council members, Knutson, what do you think about that, waiting until November 9th?
That sounds right. Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Juniman.
Absolutely.
Okay. Councilmember Smith.
Yes, I agree with that, as long as we're back together in time for us to have cake after my last meeting.
Okay. There will be cake. I'm sorry, Councilmember Neblett, I omitted you. I jumped over you. Sorry.
Nope, that's all right. I think it's reasonable.
Okay. I think it's respectful to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so City Manager Coleman, is that sufficient direction?
Yes, it is for me. I don't know if Mr. Sable had any other follow-up, but I understand where you're headed, and I appreciate your thoughtful consideration to this.
Mr. Sable?
Mayor and council members, I think what I will do as an appropriate next step then is I will work with Ron Beatty and his team on drafting a statement and determination regarding conducting meetings by telephone or other electronic means to account for the hybrid model. And this is an item that the mayor can sign on your own per the executive authority, but I think we will incorporate some of the language we heard today to reflect that it was a discussion of the broad council. And so we will prepare a draft for you, and we can then put in there that hybrid meetings shall begin on what the date must be, November 9th. So we'll prepare that for you and include that in the FYI and broad communication to the community.
Thank you, Mr. Sable. I appreciate that. Okay, moving on to our next agenda item, the home-based cement business with storage of commercial vehicles at 2510 Carver Avenue. Mr. Martin, are you doing this one? Oh, yes, he is. The presenter?
Mayor and Council, this is Jeff Thompson. I'll be presenting this item.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So Francisco and Naomi Zamora, they own this property. It's at 2510 Carver Avenue. It's a large property. It's at the intersection of Carver Avenue and Sterling Street, just east of 494. And as you can see on the map, also immediately adjacent to Fish Creek. It's a large parcel. It's a 5-acre parcel, and it's zoned, as many of the larger residential properties are, on the far south part of South Maplewood, as rural low density. The Zamoras operate a small home-based concrete business on the property. A couple of the characteristics of the business. The business itself is managed from the property, but all of the services or the construction activities that are provided as part of the concrete business do occur off-site. The general business hours are Monday through Friday, and then their seasonal operation is from April through October. The business currently has a total of 7 employees, 4 of whom are family members of the Zamoras. And then in terms of operations on the site, they do not have regular customers coming to the site. Just the nature of their business as a construction business is it occurs off-site, and so customer activity to the site is not common. With the portions of the business that they are proposing to allow on the site as part of the council approval are really 2 items. First, to allow for employee parking. So 3 vehicles associated with those employees, they would come to the site in the morning and park their vehicles before they leave for the day for the construction activities. And then the second part is the storage of 2 commercial vehicles. So they would like to store 2 large Ford F-550 trucks with trailers and bobcats attached to them on the site that they use in conjunction with their home-based business. The action, the proposal or the business does require 2 items for the council. The first is a home occupation license, and this is a license that the city council must approve for the operation of a home-based business that exceeds certain thresholds within a residential district. In this case, it's again those 2 items that are unique to this business: the employee parking and the storage of some commercial equipment, which warrant the need for that home occupation license. And then the second is a conditional use permit, again, for the more intense component of this business, which is the storage of those commercial vehicles. So because this is a large property in that rural residential zoning, we do allow by conditional use permit the storage of commercial vehicles associated with that home-based business. So that's the application before the council. The storage areas themselves would be located on kind of a new driveway area that is constructed south of the existing home, and where its placement would be, given what's around the property, would not be visible from any adjacent properties. So with that, Mayor, we did send notices to 12 property owners. You did note in the packet that there are 3 responses from 3 properties that we received that were included in your packet. There was also a public hearing held before the Planning Commission The Planning Commission did recommend approval of both items, and so we have included a resolution in your packet tonight that would approve both those items, the home occupation license and the conditional use permit for the Zamoras to operate that home-based business at 2510 Carver Avenue. So Mayor, with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Mr. Thompson, you know, it was kind of interesting to read the public comments about this proposal. It appears that the neighbors are all very much in favor of the proposal and actually very much appreciate the work and the efforts that the Zamoras have made to clean up the property from the past owner. So that was really encouraging to me. I'm going to digress for just a moment. What the neighbors did bring up, though, was some other problem properties down in Carver. And what I wanted to do was is maybe ask a question of City Manager Coleman, because some of these other comments were brought up about other properties. And how is it that we can handle this? Because this is kind of a sideways way for some complaints to come concerning code enforcement. So City Manager Coleman, I'm going to call on you to explain kind of what the plan is to deal with some of these other complaints that came up or surfaced as part of this proposal for the Zamora property. What are we going to do in terms of the other properties? City Manager Coleman?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Abrams, members of the City Council. This morning when I was talking with the mayor, we discussed, some of the comments that were received with regard to this project, and also noted that there have been other complaints in the area. And part of that is simply because these are larger lots and they're somewhat removed from a standard residential type of development. And so I think people have sort of gotten away with maybe not following all of our rules and our ordinances. So the mayor and I discussed the idea of having Mr. Thompson and his staff kind of take a more comprehensive approach to that area of South Maplewood, to look at where we know we have code enforcement issues that have been brewing, some of them for many years, some of them are newer. This is the one before you tonight is an example of a new buyer who is just making things better and actually talking to neighbors and making it work for everybody. So I've asked Mr. Thompson to put together a comprehensive report to present either at a council meeting or in the FYI as to some identified properties that have been problems or that are not meeting all of our city codes and ordinances, and how we plan to address those or remedy those situations. So I think that that's a really good approach to taking a broader view of that as an overall neighborhood and area of concern. And I really appreciate the fact that neighbors brought this to our attention to shine some light on some issues that I think we need to address in a more comprehensive manner.
Thank you, City Manager Coleman. And just to be clear for the point, I really appreciate the Zamoras and what they have done in their efforts to have a business. And certainly I could see why that would be a very great location for the business that they have. So I'm certainly in support of the work that they have done and support the recommended actions included in our staff report. So let's see if there are any other questions or comments. Councilmember Knutson.
Yeah, I sit on the Planning Commission, and these are fine people. This is the perfect approach to these large properties and where they keep businesses. So I support this plan wholeheartedly. This is what you want in home-based practice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Councilmember Neblett.
Thank you, Mayor. You must have been reading my mind, because the two issues you raised were the exact two that I saw too when I was reading this. And I wrote myself a note and it said, it's nice to hear when you've been a good neighbor. So it's just, I'm happy for the Zamoras to continue doing what they're doing and being an asset to the community and their neighbors. And that we're going to take a look at the problem areas that these people have pointed out. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Juniman.
Yes, I'm in agreement with my colleagues. Doesn't everyone wish that their neighbors had that much good to say about them? These are obviously hardworking people who just want a chance to have their business and do it right. But the fact that they've already approached the neighbors and they've been fixing up the property, I mean, what more could you ask for? I think too bad we can't clone these people and plop them in a few other neighborhoods. Yeah. And again, I agree on that. The other problem properties, as somebody's been around a long time and walked Carver Avenue any number of times this year, some of those other problems have been around a long time. So I'm glad, as the manager said, that people have brought this to our attention and we can take a whole neighborhood approach to it. And the Zamoras have created a very good example to follow, shall we say, of what can be done. I was delighted actually to read this report.
Good. Okay, Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, thank you. There are some major problems. So I live really close to this property, and there are some major problems along Carver. So I do think that we need to address them. I think some of the problem ones further down are in Newport as well. So it might be worth a call to Newport to see if we could partner on some of that. But I think a proactive approach there would be really helpful. I know we've also had some public safety issues along Carver in some of those same properties. So it might be interesting to also make sure we're approaching that from kind of a holistic perspective of code and as well as calls for service. One question I do, and I'm really happy about the current owners, but as we have all learned, ownership can improve with new owners. It can also not improve with new owners. So is this permit specifically for these owners and non-transferable? Or, could we have, say, a landscaping business move in down the road who doesn't care for its neighbors and start to cause issues?
Mr. Thompson, can you respond to that question, please?
Mayor and Council, thank you. So just the mechanics of it, the home occupation license is tied to the current owner. So if there's a new owner that would need to be renewed or reapplied for by any new owner of the property, the nature of a conditional use permit though, as with all conditional use permits, we can't tie them to particular owners. Those do run with the property as long as the conditions that the council has approved continue to operate. So it's both. The CUP would run with the land, but a new license would be required if the property were to change ownership.
Okay, thank you for that.
So
Any more questions?
Mayor, I have
finish up. So I would just say in the spirit of good fences make good neighbors, let's make sure that the conditions in there are super clear so that we don't regret it down the road.
Okay, thank you for that. Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I wanted to point out to Mr. Thompson is the fact how close this is to Fish Creek and that our wetland ordinance has kicked in for the 100-foot buffer. And they plan to make improvements, but that really needs to be followed through by staff because we certainly don't want anything to, and I would think anything they did that wasn't proper might be totally by accident. But my point is we need to be guiding and checking on it. That's all. And I agree with Brian because this is a conditional use permit. We need to make the conditions quite explicit so that should they for some reason move on and someone else moves in, they know what is expected in that property.
Okay, thank you, council members. We have two motions before us. Do I have a motion from the council?
I move to approve a resolution for a home occupation license for a home-based concrete business at 2510 Carver Avenue.
Second.
Moved by Neblett, seconded by Juniman. The motion to approve a resolution for a home occupation license for a home-based concrete business at 2510 Carver Avenue. Any further discussion, council members? Hearing none, Councilmember Knutson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett,
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. We have a second motion. Do I have
I
Councilmember
move
to
approval of the conditional use permit resolution for the property at 2510 Carver Avenue, with specific attention paid to the conditions as we have discussed, so that this property remains decent and within our control.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Knutson, the motion to approve a specific resolution for a conditional use permit to allow the storage of commercial vehicles at 25 Carver Avenue, written in a very specific manner. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Councilmember Knutson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett,
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. The motion passes.
Well, congratulations to the Zamoras on many fronts, might I say.
Yes, congratulations to the Zamoras.
Mayor.
Moving on,
May I make one more comment, please?
yes, Councilmember Smith.
Again, I apologize for my dogs, but I was wondering, could either City Manager Coleman or Mr. Thompson follow up with those property owners to let them know what the plan is for their concerns?
Good idea. City Manager Coleman, did you get
Yes,
that?
I did, and we will follow up on that. That's a good suggestion. Thank you.
Okay, great. Moving on, next on our agenda is Wood Spring Suites. Mr. Thompson, you are the presenter on this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. So this site, we've received a development application, is located on County Road D, just west of South Lawn Drive, in between Flandreau and Bittersweet. It's actually the last undeveloped site in the Legacy Village development, west of Maplewood Mall. And as the council is aware, Legacy Village is a mixed-use development that was approved with a mix of different housing, commercial, and office and retail uses. Was always planned and approved as kind of a mixed-use walkable neighborhood. This site on County Road D has, as part of that larger planned unit development for the Legacy Village plan, has always been planned and approved for retail or commercial uses. The city has received a couple of applications in the past, the last one being for approval of a multi-tenant strip shopping center on the site. The applicant is proposing to construct a new 126-room hotel. It would be an extended stay hotel under the Wood Spring Suites brand. And as part of the application, they're requesting approval of three items: a planned unit development, which is really a kind of a minor change or minor amendment to the PUD, reflecting some of the site plan and setback changes of this site plan versus the past site plan, because the hotel use is ultimately consistent with that original PUD, and no change is required because the hotel is consistent with that commercial zoning, or the commercial zoning for the property. The other two items are the design review for construction of a new commercial building, which was reviewed by the CDRB, and then lastly, a comprehensive sign plan for the exterior signage for the development. This just shows the current controls of the property. It's consistent with the Legacy Village development plan and planned unit development. In our 2040 comp plan, it's guided for commercial use, and as I've referenced, the current zoning is PUD, which both of these, both the land use and zoning, do allow for a hotel on this site. mentioned, the site is currently vacant, and then the last approval was 2008 for a multi-tenant retail building. Something that is fairly unique, this is the proposed site plan for the development. I think one of the unique aspects of the Legacy Village PUD that this is a part of is it actually has a required setback or a maximum setback requirement. You know, the traditional zoning requirement is for a minimum setback requirement, but no maximum. But the Legacy Village PUD, because it had that walkable urban form, did establish a maximum setback. So that's varied from the original approval in 2003 to the amendment that was requested in 2008. And ultimately, this application lands in between those two previous setback requirements at 68 feet. There are two items as part of the site plan that the applicant is requesting flexibility. As the council knows, the PUD is a tool in which the council can approve flexibility from the strict provisions of our ordinance to achieve a development that's consistent with our comp plan. And on this application, there are two items of flexibility being requested. The first is to allow to reduce the parking stall width, just given that a hotel is a very low turnover of parking stalls compared to other types of commercial development. They're proposing to reduce this parking stall width from 9.5 feet required down to 9 feet. And then they're also proposing to reduce the setback on the County Road D side, the parking lot setback along County Road D. And essentially what that allows is additional land on the south side along Village Trail to construct a sidewalk on that street, as well as to add some of the required landscaping on the south side of the parking lot. So in terms of the PUD, those are really the two items that the applicant is requesting approval of the PUD amendment. The site would have its access. There'd be two access drives from Flandreau. I know there were a number of, a couple of comments in the packet from the neighbors about why the access is located on Flandreau. We did review the option of relocating that access to the east, which has a more commercial frontage than the site to the west, which are the townhomes. The issue and the challenge is that at the Bittersweet Lane intersection with County Road D, there is a median on County Road D, so it would only allow for right in, right out access onto D. There would be no left-bound or left turn access into the site from access locations there. So that is why the applicant is proposing the access on the west side of the site, even though it is residential. The building does meet all the setback requirements in the zoning district. And as I mentioned, they are proposing to add the sidewalk and trees as required by the PUD along the south side of the site. The CDRB did spend, again, a considerable amount of time reviewing the proposed design of this building. To summarize the proposal is the building would have a brick base, so the reddish brown color on the rendering is along the entire first floor is a red brick. And then the upper stories of the building would be a hardy plank or cement board siding that is it's a lap siding. So it's installed in kind of a lap style. And then the building has a pitched roof with asphalt shingles. You know, when we initially met with the applicant about this project and the initial design, this project has changed and developed since those initial meetings to incorporate some of the respond to the setting of the site being adjacent to some residential. And so specific elements of the design that reference that more residential architecture are two things. The initial building actually had a flat roof, or they were considering a flat roof, which is obviously a more commercial building design. So they've added the pitched roof. It certainly adds some height to the building, but it provides that more residential character with the pitched roof and the asphalt shingles. And certainly the materials on the upper part of the building do reflect, again, that kind of lap siding, which is a more traditional residential design element. The CDRB did require the incorporation of some additional brick just to add some more durable, higher quality materials. And so included in your resolution are conditions that additional brick be added along the north elevation, essentially along the part of the building, the entire front of the building above the front entrance, and then along the two side stair towers on each end of the building to kind of to bookend the design of the building. And then also some additional brick on the south elevation, again, to break up some of that lap siding with the incorporation of additional red brick. And then the last component is the comprehensive sign plan with the condition that only monument signs are allowed and no signs allowed on the south and west elevations. We do find that the proposed signs are consistent with the initial or the original Legacy Village PUD. I did send out the neighborhood surveys as is customary. We did receive 11 responses, which were included in your packet. There was also a public hearing at the Planning Commission, and both the CDRB and Planning Commission did recommend approval of this application with some of those conditions I noted by the CDRB around the proposed building design. So that, Mayor and Council, we have included resolutions in your packet which would approve the development application with those conditions as I've discussed. And I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. You know, it's for me very interesting that we've had two renderings in tonight's council packet. And just off the top, I mean, there is such a difference in the way this particular project, which is the final piece in Legacy Village, appears and what we earlier looked at in terms of Hy-Vee. Now, I recognize this is a hotel as opposed to a grocery store, but boy, I will just say that I'm not all that impressed with the design of this particular project, as really this is the final piece in Legacy Village. Personally, I also struggled with the park. They're asking to make the parking stalls smaller. Legacy Village has a parking problem already. And I'm a little concerned. I'm not particularly in favor of making these parking stalls smaller. I think that we are going to, I mean, parking is just an issue in that area. There's not enough parking. And I guess I also struggle with the setback, that as the final piece of Legacy, it just seems to me that it should fit in with what the original design was. So I'm kind of struggling with this. So what I'd like to do is at least hear from my other council members and see what they have to say. But those are my thoughts on it. I'm not, those are my concerns that I've got right now. So Councilmember Knudsen.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I did sit on planning and design review board. And the design review board wasn't quite, considering their tenacity around Hy-Vee, it wasn't quite as tenacious in this review. A lot of discussion about parking, but one of the interesting things as I've been on the design review and planning is I don't think I've been involved in any setting where the parking code applies. There's always, like senior housing, I fully understand that seniors, when they go into a complex, don't bring cars. So yes, we abate and change that. I'm just trying to figure out why this place suggests a smaller parking stall compared to any other commercial business. I know it's a long stay kind of program, but I would think that would bring in construction vehicles and things like that, which the neighbors didn't respond in that way, but I think that's also something we need to watch out for. Excuse me. Those are my comments.
Okay, Councilmember Neblett.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two questions. What happened to the retail proposal in 2008? I know you weren't here, Mr. Thompson, but can somebody tell me what happened to, I guess it fell through, I'm not sure.
Mr. Thompson, do you have an answer to that?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I don't know the specifics of what happened to that 2008 retail proposal. I'm I just know that the site has been marketed, for commercial development for some time. We've talked to a number of potential users or potential parties that have been interested in various types of commercial development. But ultimately, this is the first application the city's received since that 2008 amendment for the retail building.
Okay. And I guess that leads into my second question. Is there some kind of research that says that Maplewood needs another extended stay hotel?
Mr. Thompson?
We have others in the city.
Sure. Mayor and council, the city hasn't done a specific hotel market study. What has been done is there was, for the North End Division plan, there was a larger market, study done for like the North End regional economy, like what from a higher level, macro level perspective, what types of development are going to be demanded from a market perspective in the next 10, 20, 30 years. And certainly as part of that, a hotel was identified as a need in the market. But again, we didn't get down into the specifics in that study about, what type of hotel, what level of amenities and services may be provided in that hotel, and certainly not, what brand of hotel. It was just, again, a little bit higher level study.
Sure. Well, it just seems like I don't know. It doesn't feel like, it just doesn't feel like it fits in that spot. But, I know we're way past that at this point. But, it looks like a plain building with a couple of colors on it. And, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Juniman.
Well, I agree with both of you, and my initial reaction is the same. Ho-hum. I'm with Councilmember Neblett. I'm sorry, but this looks like it's somebody who was doing some kind of a mock-up for the whole area, and there was a space, and so they stuck something on it. As someone who's been around since Legacy Village came to be, I have to say this is not at all what I envisioned. And obviously, the original retail idea was different than this, and it had to do with all those housing units and what small retail could do. I don't remember all the specifics, but 2008, think of what that was, 2008. What happened to the markets? What happened to the real estate market? It just went away. Not that it wouldn't be a good idea when the economy is good, but it just went away. I appreciate what the Design Review Board has tried to do. I don't know are they okay with how it has now evolved, or are they going to see this again, or what? But it's certainly, in my mind, it's what Sylvia said, it doesn't fit with Legacy Village at all. Not at all. And I heard what Mr. Thompson said about the access, but is that something we can pursue at all, or is it just not doable to do it on the other side? Because I agree with the residents. You have to look at it to begin with, but do you want to have the access to this kind of a commercial development into residential facing properties? That's a question for me. But my initial response still is ho-hum. I can't say anything else because it won't be nice, I don't think. And the other thing is, I agree with the mayor on the parking spots. No, they shouldn't be narrower especially if you're going to keep this extended stay. But having had to spend a lot of time in a motel in 2008 to 2010, the narrow spots are terrible if you're trying to load and unload a car. They're just horrible. So I don't think we'll go with that.
Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, I agree on the parking thing for sure. I also agree the design is sort of meh. As far as a hotel being there, I don't think it's a terrible idea to have a hotel there. I'm I'm not sure that this one is the one, but you know, it's I do think that a well-run, reputable hotel can be great for some of the restaurants around there, and can be a good focal point, and also good for businesses who may have people coming into town for business purposes and whatnot. So, and we don't have a reputable, well-run hotel in that area today. So I think that wouldn't be terrible. But yeah, the design here, it feels like something you'd see in a freeway exit in the middle of, you know, Nebraska.
You know, council members, I think that this particular project warrants further discussion. And I'd like to get some more information about this, because I think we all have raised some similar concerns. And I'd like to have suggest that given the extent of the agenda that we still have ahead of us tonight, I would suggest that we table this, and we can have staff take a look at this a little bit further, because it sounds to me like, for a variety of different reasons, some of them being very similar, we are struggling with this. And I just think that we've got so many other items on this agenda. I don't think that we've got enough information that we really could go forward with it. So I would propose that we table this, and staff can bring this back to us. So I'll make that motion to table it.
Second.
Moved by Abrams, seconded by Juniman to table. Oh, Neblett, I'm sorry. Was that you, Councilmember Neblett?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Councilmember Neblett seconded it. Okay. Let's see. Is there any further discussion about tabling the Wood Spring Suites project?
Mayor, I just want to make sure, you know, this fits the long-term plan. It fits the 2040. I don't want anyone to understand their attitude is to kill this thing off, but to dial it in is what I sense. That's my
I think
position.
that's what we're doing, right?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, just want to make sure
Right.
that people don't understand we're trying to kill this thing off. So
Right. No. Okay. So, any further discussion?
Yeah, Mayor, if I may, I agree.
Councilmember Smith.
I agree with Councilmember Knudsen. Like, I'd like to vote for a hotel. I'm just not sure I'm ready to vote for this one yet.
Yep.
well said.
Okay. So in terms of the vote then, thank you, council members. Councilmember Knudsen.
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett.
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well to table the Wood Spring Suites project. Okay, moving on then on our agenda, the ordinance amendment for planned unit development. Mr. Thompson, this is going to be yours, I believe.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me just switch my screen real quickly here. Can you see my screen? I know I'm on the wrong. There we go. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Give me one moment here, just switching gears. Okay. So as the council knows, last year we adopted our comp plan, and one of the items the city is required to do and a best practice to do is to review our ordinances, our implementation ordinances, to ensure that our ordinances are consistent with our new adopted 2040 comprehensive plan. Often the result of that is, rezonings of property to ones that are consistent with the new land use designation. But we've identified two other items that we'll need to proceed forward with to amend our ordinance to be consistent with our comp plan. The first is ultimately a North End zoning district, but the second is what we're bringing forward tonight, which is an amendment to the city's planned unit development ordinance. I could spend a lot of time, but I won't, on discussing what is a planned unit development, but it's certainly a very effective tool that cities use and that Maplewood has used to create development that is consistent with the larger policy and development goals that the city has, and recognizes that sometimes traditional zoning, which only regulates kind of strictly regulates uses and massing and setback requirements doesn't always achieve development that's consistent with the larger development goals that we've established. And so some of the traditional applications of a PUD are natural resource preservation, creation of affordable housing, creating mixed use developments, as in the Legacy Village we just reviewed, or other kind of larger policy goals that the city may have. So we are proposing an amendment to the PUD. I'd frame them up as largely procedural changes, but there are some changes that impact kind of the council's review and also the public's review that we want to walk through. So I'll focus on two things, three changes that we're looking at to make as part of the PUD ordinance. The first is how the council reviews a planned unit development, and the procedure won't change, but the tools that you're using will change. So we currently approve planned unit developments as a conditional use permit. And so, as you know, with a conditional use permit, if it meets all the conditions that the ordinance has established, the council, the city is obligated to approve that CUP. Most cities are now going to a PUD as a rezoning tool because it gives the city and ultimately the council greater discretion in approving PUDs, which are ultimately flexing on development standards to achieve those policy goals. So the best tool to fit that kind of discretionary review for the council is through a rezoning action. And so that's one change that will be made is how the council approves PUDs going forward. The second, this is really on the back end, is that as we've approved PUDs over the years, they can be somewhat difficult to administer after it's built. So as new tenants come in, or as additions get built, or as a development evolves over time, because it's not codified in a zoning district, we're kind of left with whatever conditions were put in the original conditional use permit. So it's a better tool to regulate and administer PUDs on an ongoing basis once approved by the city. The third piece that we are including in the ordinance is really just an optional step, is to allow for a concept plan review. And again, this would not be mandatory, it would be optional. But for larger projects or larger planned unit developments that are achieving some of those goals, but provide some flexibility, it allows for like an advisory review. So a developer or applicant or property owner could submit kind of preliminary concept plans of a proposed development and take those through a conceptual review, not only by the Planning Commission or an advisory board, but also come to the City Council. And what it allows is public input on the front end of a project, so not only the public, but the commissions and the council get to provide feedback earlier in the process before kind of the final development plans are prepared and submitted and submitted for the development application. So it just allows for, again, some of that input on the front end to shape the planned unit development as it moves through the process. So the process in terms of once we get a development application, so the formal review process would be very similar to what it is today. There would still be a public hearing before the Planning Commission, and ultimately it would all come to the City Council for adoption. You would do it by ordinance rather than resolution, and then that full ordinance would get codified into our zoning code to regulate that development on an ongoing basis. And then it does articulate a very specific process for amendments to the PUD. So minor amendments can be approved by staff, but any sort of major amendment to the project would be required to go through the same process through the Planning Commission and Council. So this isn't something that's in our ordinance today around amendments, so it just provides greater clarity for the process. And then with that, we would create a new district just to regulate all the existing PUDs. So if there's any site that is already approved for planned unit development, it wouldn't change any of those approvals. All of those conditions would continue until such time that they propose a major amendment to that PUD. So the Planning Commission did hold up as an ordinance amendment itself. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this item. No one from the public spoke at that meeting. And they did recommend unanimously adoption of it. And I think because the Planning Commission spends, more detail sometimes looking at projects and the specifics of the ordinances, they did see the benefits of this new model for approaching PUDs. And so they did recommend the approval. Staff also recommends approval of an amendment to our ordinance for the planned unit development. That's included in your packet for adoption here this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson, for that report. Council members, are there any questions? Councilmember Knudsen.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I read all the stuff ahead of your nice slide set, and it's mind-numbing. I want to make sure, as you're declaring all this stuff, you're adding to the staff essentially a kind of approve it kind of thing. So, from a governance point of view, the council, and we said, I mean, we need to rely on prove it. This is the good way to go, and you do. I'm not criticizing. I'm saying it just adds a dimension of we're relying on you to look at ordinances, watershed, all the kind of things that that come in front of us. So that's all I'm saying. I support the change, but it's really important that staff clarify for governance purposes, why these changes are taking place and what benefit we have as a result of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Niblett.
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Juniman. Councilmember Juniman.
No questions. Thank you. But I agree with Councilmember Knudsen. Mind numbing might be a good way to describe it.
Councilmember Smith.
No questions for me.
Okay, and I don't have any questions either. Council members, we have two motions before us. Would someone like to move the first motion?
Okay, I move to approve the ordinance amendments to Chapter 44 zoning to establish new procedures for planned unit developments.
Second.
Moved by Niblett, seconded by Knudsen. The motion to approve the ordinance amendment to Chapter 44 zoning to establish new procedures for planned unit developments. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then let's go to a vote. Councilmember Knudsen.
Aye.
Councilmember Niblett.
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. There's a second motion, council members.
Motion to approve the resolution authorizing publication of the ordinance by title and summary. 4 votes needed.
Okay. Moved by Knudsen, seconded by Niblett. The motion to approve the resolution authorizing publication of the ordinance by title and summary. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Councilmember Knudsen.
Aye.
Councilmember Niblett.
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. The motion passes. Okay. We are on to the resolution adopting the 2021 preliminary property tax levy, J8. City Manager Coleman.
Mayor Abrams, members of the council, Ellie Paulseth is available to do this report.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Paulseth.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Tonight, you can hear me okay, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Tonight, the council will consider adopting the attached resolution in your packet setting the preliminary tax levy for taxes payable in 2021 in the amount of $23,217,300. Also setting the 2021 budget hearing for December 14th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Keep in mind, this is the preliminary levy. After it's certified to the county, which it needs to be before the end of the month, the preliminary levy cannot be increased, but it can be decreased prior to the adoption to the final levy in December. The 2021 proposed levy is the same amount as the 2020 final levy, which is a 0% increase. It's the exact same amount. This preliminary levy will result in an estimated $10 decrease in city property taxes of median value Maplewood home. The preliminary levy does include the $100,000 appropriation for the EDA, but it does not include that separate HRA levy that we had talked about earlier. The HRA can levy on its own authority. It was decided not to do that this year on account of the situation with COVID and the economy. But if the EDA does decide, they would have to certify that by the end of the month, because they cannot increase after we certify these taxes. The other thing I just wanted to point out again is that the city's tax rate, property tax rate for taxes payable in 2021 will decrease by more than 6% in this year. And this is the 5th year in a row that the tax rate has decreased. So good job, everyone. So I will stand for questions if there are any, and if there are no questions, so we'd request adoption of the resolution setting the preliminary levy.
Thank you, Ms. Paulseth. Mr. Knudsen, Councilmember Knudsen, do you have any questions?
No, I do not.
Councilmember Neblett.
None for me. Thank you.
Councilmember Juniman.
None for me, thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
No question.
And I have no other questions either. It seems that we've been studying our budget for months. I know. Multiple times we have had presentations and discussions about it. And I want to commend staff for putting together what I see as a very responsible budget, given the challenging and uncertain economic times that we have, recognizing and acknowledging the struggle of our businesses and our residents and the unemployment rate that we have in Maplewood. I think that this is a very responsible budget. And so I want to commend staff for putting this together and helping us work through this. So hearing no questions, is there a motion from the council?
I move to adopt the resolution setting a preliminary tax levy for taxes payable in 2021 of $23,217,300 and setting the 2021 budget hearing for December 14th at 7 p.m.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Knudsen. The motion to adopt the resolution setting a preliminary tax levy for taxes payable in 2021 of $23,217,300 and setting the 2021 budget hearing for December 14th, 2020 at 7 p.m. And for all those listening, that is a 0% city tax levy increase, 0%. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, let's go to the vote. Councilmember Knudsen.
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett.
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Ms. Paulseth. And now we are moving to a closed session. City Manager Coleman, do you want to tee this up and then we'll get the motion?
Certainly, Mayor Abrams, members of the City Council, before the meeting is closed this evening, the City Council must state on the record the specific grounds permitting the meeting to be closed and describe the subject to be discussed. Therefore, it is recommended the City Council include or introduce the following motion: that pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 13D05, Subdivision 3B, I hereby motion to close the regular meeting and go into closed session to discuss pending litigation related to the Myth Live 2 Incorporated. And just a reminder, Mayor, that our attorney on this is Paul Reavers, and he will be joining us when we reconnect into closed session.
Okay, and
So
council members, we will have to go close out of this Zoom meeting and enter a completely separate Zoom meeting. So, okay. Council members, is there a motion?
I move.
That was simultaneous. I can't pick out who it was.
All right, I'm a second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Neblett. The motion as stated by City Manager Coleman and seconded by Councilmember Juniman. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Councilmember Knudsen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett.
Aye. Aye, excuse me.
Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. And we will leave this Zoom meeting and go into closed session. Okay, I'm going to call back to order the Maplewood City Council meeting for September 14th, 2020. We just came out of closed session. Mr. Beatty, do you want to make a comment about coming back from closed session?
Madam Mayor, Council, that's correct. You're back in open session. There's really no reason to make any substantive comment about the closed session because it was attorney-client privilege. I would suggest you just go on and handle, I think, your last item on the agenda.
Thank you very much for that. Council members, we have one more agenda item. It's the resolution receiving bids and awarding contracts for 1902 building roof replacement. Mr. Love, this is your staff report. I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, Mayor and Council, good evening. Just want to check and make sure everybody can hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, we can.
Great. The 1902 Public Works building, the roof was originally built in 1978. It's past its useful life and it is failing and in need of replacement. The proposed project for the roof replacement does not include the building expansion that was done in 2005. The city's consultant, LHB, has prepared plans and specifications and put out the project for bid. We had a bid opening on September 4th. 8 total bids were received. Three of the bids were rejected because they were found to be incomplete. So we ended up with 5 full bids. The bid amounts ranged from $469,000 to just a little over $573,000. The engineer estimate for the construction work was about $504,000. So we received some good competitive bids. The estimated project, LHB has reviewed the bids as well as provided us with a letter of recommendation that the low bidder, Burwald Roofing Company, with their bid of $469,300 was the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, and they do recommend the award of contract to them. The total estimated project with the construction cost plus our consultant fees for design and inspection and construction management comes to about $491,000. This is about $81,000 over the original CIP estimate. Staff has worked with the finance director to make adjustments to future CIP budgets to account for this increased cost. The finance director has reviewed the building maintenance fund, which is the funding source for this, and we have adequate funds. The staff does recommend proceeding with the project with a total project budget of $491,050. So with that, staff does recommend the approval of the resolution receiving bids and awarding a construction contract for 1902 building roof replacement city project 2006 to Birdwald Roofing Company Incorporated in the amount of $469,300. I am available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Love, for that report. Any questions, Councilmember Knudsen?
No.
Councilmember Neblett?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Juniman?
Yes, what are they going to do with all the buckets they won't have to use anymore for the leaks?
Councilmember Smith? Okay, and I have no questions either. Council members, we have one motion on this agenda item.
I move the resolution receiving bids and awarding construction contract for the 1902 building roof replacement city project 20-06 to Burwald Roofing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Knudsen. The motion to approve the resolution for receiving bids and awarding construction contract for the 1902 building roof replacement, City Project 20-06 to Burwald Roofing Company. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then Councilmember Knudsen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett?
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. That's our final agenda item for tonight. Thank you all, council members and staff. What I've done in the past is gone and done a final opportunity for council members to comment. So we'll start that with Councilmember Knudsen tonight.
Well, I'm just thinking, the way we're doing our business and everything falling in place, the thoroughness of examination, I feel like I'm a council member driving a race car and a well-equipped race car with our staff and leadership. So I'm just reflecting on the incredible amount of important work that goes through this city. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councilmember Neblett.
I think, thank you, Mayor. I think the same thing, Councilmember Knudsen. And even though we are Zooming, audio Zooming, citizens can still get in touch with us. They can call us.
Oh, yeah.
They can email us. And like your comment earlier this evening, we're not hiding. We are just trying to be respectful of everyone's concern during this time in our lives. So I just really appreciate all the work, the behind the scenes work that goes on before we ever get to these meetings is just tremendous. So I just want to say thank you to staff and my fellow council members. And I do miss you guys in person, but I can appreciate the work that is getting done. So I thank you for that as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you, Mayor. What they said, it is amazing how much is getting done in spite of the world being in a very unusual position, might I say. And I don't think everyone realizes how much work staff always does, but it's even more work now. And they're going out of their way to get us everything we need to have meetings and to make things get done, to be accomplished when we're done. And I really think that everyone on staff deserves credit and some special kudos to the IT people for keeping all of us connected to this. And to Michael for herding the cats every 2 weeks so we can be where we need to be and be tuned into what we need to be tuned into. So it's just, and I like you, I kind of miss when we're together, but it's amazing how much I feel like we're all on the same page and we're together, even though we're not, because we're still managing to have discussions and get our business done. It's a good thing. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. And Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think what I've been thinking about sort of this last couple of weeks, my son and I were driving up Rice Street this weekend, and he pointed out the community gardens that we approved, I think, last year. And I said something like, we approved and helped make that happen. And then we drove by the marine store right next door and looked at all the improvements they made to that property. And I said, I remember us talking about how that design should look, and it looks exactly like it did in the drawings. And so I just started to kind of make this connection of like, sometimes when we talk about things, they seem sort of ethereal and not real. And then, a while later, you see Frost and English get built. You see these buildings get built, and you see them built in a way where they fit into the neighborhoods and they look great, and they're improvements to the space around them. And, it just gives you a moment to say, like, this process really works well. And I'm just so, I guess maybe I'm, as my term's coming to a close, starting to be a little nostalgic about some of these things, but it's just really cool to see, the work that staff does that then goes through the commissions, that then comes to us and then becomes real, is just kind of a cool chain of events. So that's sort of been on my mind this week.
Thank you for those comments, everyone. And, what I wanted to reflect on tonight is the breadth of our work tonight. We made a really important decision to come in with a 0% city tax levy increase. And that's important for our community, and it's important for our businesses. We also have a heart on this council in that we are using the charitable gambling money to help those members in our community that are food insecure. And we're thinking about very basic needs of our residents. We're also, keeping road projects going because we know that those are important. And we're addressing code enforcement issues. We have some exciting new things being proposed, with Hy-Vee, new businesses in town with the Zapporas and what they're doing with their family-owned business. And we've got the new dog utopia that was on our consent agenda. And we also have a new fire station to look forward to. And so that's what I guess I would like to leave everyone with, is kind of looking forward to all of these new wonderful things that really are happening. And it's really because of our staff and our council and our dedication to our community. So I want to thank everyone for that. These are unusual times. Thank you, Mr. Folds, for keeping us up and running. It's amazing that we can all be sitting at home in sweatpants and getting all of this business done. Let's be honest, folks. So thank you very much for that. And thank you, staff. Thank you for your thorough reports and all the research and the work that you've done for us. We've done a lot of good work tonight for our community. So thank you with that. And everyone, please stay healthy. And with that, I will adjourn our meeting. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.